Dak Prescott and Jayden Daniels face off this weekend, and they are our top-ranked fantasy quarterbacks for Week 7. We reveal our full quarterback and tight end rankings on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Today, we are getting into our Week 7 quarterback and tight end rankings. We'll start with quarterbacks and finish up with tight ends later on in the show. Let's just hop right into it. And at the top, our top two guys are actually facing off against each other this week. It should be a very fun offensive game. It's Dak Prescott and Jayden Daniels. I actually have Dak at 1 and Jayden Daniels at 2. You have it flip-flop, Jayden Daniels at 1 and Dak at 2, but we love both of them this week. The Cowboys defense is just so incredibly bad that Jayden Daniels should have a monster game, and Dak Prescott has been on fire, and hopefully he'll get CeeDee Lamb back as well this week.
Yeah, it should be a high-scoring affair. I mean, these defenses struggled. The Commanders really had some breakdowns. I know they had some turnovers against the Bears, but also gave up some big plays. They're losing at home on Monday night, so they're going to try to pick up the pieces. I think it's a pretty close game between these two. The Cowboys are slight underdogs in this one, but still the over-under says there's going to be a lot of scoring, and it's going to be rather tight on both sides. Yeah, the matchups across the board are so good, really, on both sides. I mean, George Pickens is just on an absolute heater at this point. So if he gets Lamb back with Ferguson there, it's going to be pretty great for Dak Prescott. And then Daniels, look, he's making the most of it without Terry McLaurin. Luke McCaffrey's become a thing. He's scoring every week as a big play threat. You also have now Deebo Samuel and Zach Ertz coming through as veterans. So there's plenty of weapons. You got the running as well for Daniels. Prescott, he can run in the red zone, so that gives him a little bit of an opportunity there as well. So just, smash it with those guys, put him in there. Jayden will be fine, and Dak will be just rolling here as we continue with the Cowboys' pass-happy ways.
Yeah. Now, number 3, I have Patrick Mahomes. You have him at 5. He's been on fire. He's been one of my worst takes of the offseason about Mahomes. But he finally has stepped it back up for fantasy. The defense isn't as good as it was last year, and they have no run game. So just keep throwing in Mahomes. At number 4, we have Baker Mayfield against the Lions. Yeah, I know so many of his players are injured, but it doesn't really matter, right? Now, if Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and it seems like Abuka is going to miss time for sure. So if Mike Evans and Chris Godwin still aren't back, it gets a little iffier, but he's still been so good, and the Lions secondary is banged up. But who I want to talk about is Drake Maye, who we both have in our top 5. You have him at number 3 ahead of Baker and ahead of Patrick Mahomes. I have Drake Maye at number 5, just behind those two guys. He's been on fire. He is the quarterback 6 on average this year, behind only Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, and Jalen Hurts. And he has a nice matchup this week against the Titans.
Yeah, I wouldn't beat yourself up too much about Mahomes because we've had a few developments. Daniels was hurt earlier in the season. Lamar Jackson was hurt. Well, he is still hurt. Joe Burrow was hurt. So these are some of the guys we thought were going to finish ahead of Patrick Mahomes. That was the end of the list. So I think that's what we're looking at. I think, look, Mahomes, we also didn't expect the wild running, which has been a huge factor. I actually think he's not going to have to do a lot against the Raiders, but I also think they could score 50 points. Now, looking at Drake Maye, they're also potentially going to try to score 50 points this week. Why? There's a little twist in the game. Mike Vrabel returns to Tennessee. They fired Mike Vrabel and didn't spend a lot of time on his replacement, Brian Callahan. He's already gone, so Mike McCoy will be coaching on the other side. The Titans, as bad as they've been offensively, their defense is not very good either, especially facing a diverse offense such as the Patriots. So, look, Drake Maye is going to pour it on. Look, it happened last week against the Saints, who we didn't think were going to put up a fight, but they still stepped on the gas, made some big plays. The Titans do give up a lot downfield as well. Maye can run. He's padding his numbers a little bit with that, not as much as we thought, but when you're passing at that high level, it doesn't matter. But Drake Maye against the Titans, again, I think the Patriots will be relentless with their offense. Credit Josh McDaniels. He comes in there, fixes the offense again. Seems like every time Josh McDaniels is the Patriots offense coordinator, things work. Anytime Josh McDaniels is trying his hand elsewhere, it doesn't work. So, again, Drake Maye benefiting from that greatly this year. Just a totally different offense and really maybe one of the underrated schematic moves because, again, it was a guy returning versus a new guy.
Yeah. No, I agree with all of that. And I'm really excited to see Drake Maye continue to sling it. He's been incredible. Imagine once I get him a true wide receiver one. That will be a lot of fun. Now, number 6, we have Jalen. I know it feels like Jalen Hurts has been a disappointment, but he's still the quarterback 5 on average this year, and he's still regularly putting up 19 or 20 points a game. So it's not these monster games, but he's been incredibly consistent. So you just keep playing him, and we know he has high upside, and he just is really, really safe in any given week, even if the Eagles' offense looks bad. Number 7, we both have Jared Goff sitting right there. Really great matchup at home against the Buccaneers. And if that defense is going to keep being depleted, he's going to have to throw a lot on this Buccaneers defense that's so much better at stopping the run than the pass. So we both expect a big game out of Goff this week.
Yeah, it's another high-scoring game. I mean, you have Daniels versus Prescott. We figured Goff and Mayfield will be a high-scoring game. We've talked about Mayfield. Anywhere they go, there's a lot of points on the board, even with the 49ers working through some things last week. They were somewhat back and forth and had a chance late in that game until the Buccaneers put it away. So, again, there's always going to be competitive. And, you know, Goff is just better at home. The Lions offense in general, better at home. They had a really clunker in Kansas City because they couldn't run the ball with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Those guys are also better at home where they tend to score each. Jameson Williams got going. That was good to see last week with not a lot working in Kansas City. Amon-Ra St. Brown should have rebound games. It's a great matchup for Sam LaPorta. So it really lines up for all these weapons to go off in this game. So it's one of the shootouts we're definitely watching this week where both quarterbacks can do some damage. I think there's another one, the Eagles and Vikings, but I'm not sure what you're getting on the Viking side, but I think that could also be a high-scoring game with Justin Jefferson and all the Eagles' weapons on the field.
Yeah, it all depends on if JJ McCarthy is back and healthy and actually, it shows some promise out there. Moving on, though, we have the same quarterbacks at 8 and 9, just flip-flop. So I have Justin Herbert at 8 against the Colts. I have Caleb Williams at 9 against the Saints. You have Williams 8, Justin Herbert 9. The thing with Justin Herbert is that it's not what we want, right? We want more out of him. Even last week in a nice matchup against the Dolphins, 19 fantasy points. You'll take it. Finally had a couple touchdowns in a game. First time since week 2. The thing is, this is should be a high-scoring game against the Colts. We know the Colts will be able to put up points. And the Colts defense, they allowed Bo Nix to score 20 points against them. Matthew Stafford to score 27 points. Jacoby Brissett just last week scored 21 fantasy points against them. And in the games that they held their opponents, their opposing quarterback, it was Tua, it was Geno Smith, and it was Cam Ward, guys that aren't scoring against anybody. So Colts are a good defense or a good matchup for fantasy quarterbacks. I'm going to trust Herbert this week. And then Caleb Williams has just been doing his thing. He's been consistently putting up around 20 points a game. So in a nice matchup against the Saints, you got to have him top 10.
Yeah, with Justin Herbert, look, you want him to execute more. Last week, the Quinn Johnston loss was significant, but you still had Ladd McConkey having a 100-yard game of that. The tight ends were operating well. You still had Keenan Allen on the field. I think the offensive line thing we're looking at, Joe Alt couldn't play last week. I think that is definitely a factor, but I mean, a lot of guys are playing without offensive tackles, in this league, or have some injuries up front and battling and trying to put up numbers. So I think Herbert just gets a little erratic at times. He can be hot and cold and rather inconsistent. I think he's got to use his legs more in this Greg Roman offense. When that was happening early this season, that was really helping. He didn't rush for nearly what I thought he would against the Dolphins. So he's got to do that, open things up, take things more in his control to make plays. And that's all that needs to happen. I mean, the talent is there. The weapons are there, even if Johnson has to miss another game. And then you look with Caleb Williams. Look, it wasn't spectacular because he only had one touchdown pass against the Commanders. But this matchup that he has this week against the Saints, much better. It's at home, all that good stuff. So Caleb and Herbert should rebound this week, but I do like Caleb a little bit better than Herbert. We have them flip-flop this week. So, again, they're both still top 8 plays for us.
Yep. Now, we have a lot more quarterback rankings to get through. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, I'll let you know I'm ready to get hurt by Justin Fields yet again. Let's hear from a couple of our sponsors.
All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by Built. And really, this is the chance to take advantage of your rent. And nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. That's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you can earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of dollars in airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. Whether you're grabbing food at your local restaurant or heading to the gym around the corner, you're still earning rewards. And with Built, I should say, your rent finally works for you. You're earning every point every month that you can on something that you already have to pay. So a little bit here and there with Built, but they're going to get you there with great rewards. Built has made everyday life feel more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. JOINT or JOI and BILT.com/LockedOnNFL. That's joinbuilt. JOINBILT. That's how you spell Built. Built.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure to use that link so that we know that we sent you. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is also brought to you by Rougiet. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla doing a ride on a T-Rex? Confidence, pure confidence. If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiet Go Long. Guys, you probably heard of Viagra, Cialis, or maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiet Go Long. That's exactly where Rougiet Go Long comes in. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can get hard and go the distance. The process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. And the effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to Rougiet.com. That's RUGIET. RUGIET.com. And use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your first order. That's Rougiet.com. RUGIET.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure to use our code so they know that we sent you there as well. All right, Michelle, it's time to continue the show. Thanks to Built and Rougiet there in that segment. We'll hear from more of our sponsor here later in the show. Now, let's talk about Justin Fields. Oh, gosh. I didn't like the comments that Aaron Glenn made about Justin Fields. I think Aaron Glenn is just getting desperate, that he's realizing the outside noise is not leading to him having a second season in New York. He's trying to get a win. Why else wouldn't you be coaching, right? To get wins. They're playing the Panthers at home this week. The Panthers have actually been a decent pass defense, but Fields' numbers have gotten done through the run. So let's look at where we have Fields this week. I have him dropped all the way to number 19. Michelle's sticking him at 10, so I'll let you go first, Michelle. Why are you reluctantly confident on Fields this week?
Yeah, I just think it's the matchup, right? I think he's desperate. He has to have a solid enough game to keep his job here. And the last 3 quarterbacks to face the Panthers, it's been Dak Prescott with 22 points, Tua with 22 points, and Drake Maye with 23 points against the Panthers. I get it. You probably maybe won't have Garrett Wilson this week, but we really just need him to do it with his legs. Like, that's all we need him to do it with. Just run like crazy. So I mean, in 3 of his 5 games, he has scored over 26 fantasy points and then 2 massive duds, right? So it's either he's going to be a top 5 quarterback or the 30th ranked quarterback in the league. But I have him at 10 this week. I'm willing to, risk it for those huge points if he does come through. Now, your number 10 quarterback is Bo Nix. I'm not far behind you at quarterback 12 there for him. He has a nice matchup against the Giants.
Yeah, I mean Justin Fields is just so volatile. I think if you look at the Panthers, their pass defense numbers are better than you think, but he's going to have to compile without Garrett Wilson, and that's tricky, especially after last week just not being able to move the ball at all. But you look Denver, the team that did that to Justin Fields, they have Bo Nix on the other side. Bo Nix typically plays well at home. They're going to the Giants who give up a lot of big plays downfield. Cortland Sutton had an extremely rough, slow week against the Jets out there in London. So I think he's in for a rebound big time. The matchup is good for him to get going downfield. These other weapons can get going as well. The Broncos offense has been frustrating. It's gone up and down, and we're not quite sure what you're going to get from week to week in terms of who helps after Sutton. And Sutton himself was shut down last week. And J.K. Dobbins has been a good source there in the backfield, but there's not a lot of stuff reliable going on fantasy-wise on the offensive side. Their most reliable asset right now has been defense. When you have 30 sacks, that tends to happen. Now, I think Nix is going to play well at home. This is a great matchup because he wants to prove himself with Jackson Dart on the other side. So I think there's going to be some opportunities for Nix, and I think he'll do a little bit more running this week, maybe inspired by Dart in this game.
Now, we both do have Dart ranked pretty low. It's just a really tough matchup on the road. I don't want to go there. It doesn't mean he can't be good. I just don't. I don't feel great about that matchup. You have him at 20. I have him at 18. Now, I have Daniel Jones at number 11 against the Chargers. You have him a little bit lower at 14, and two guys you have ahead of him, actually three guys. You have Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, and Aaron Rodgers all ahead of Daniel Jones. But tell me why you like Trevor Lawrence and Aaron Rodgers so much this week.
Yeah, I think I'll start with Rodgers. I mean, look, the Bengals really give up a lot of points to wide receivers downfield, and they struggle with the tight end. Rodgers definitely is going to take advantage of those two tight end sets they often run here with Arthur Smith, with Jonas Smith being more of the primary than Pat Freiermuth in terms of receiving. But that's a good matchup, and then we'll see how that plays out, right? Calvin Austin was a scratch. I liked him as a deep sleeper, but he couldn't be healthy enough to go last week. So if that's the case, then they'll probably use more tight end sets, and that's a good way to get Rodgers a couple touchdowns. So I'm thinking 250 and 2 can happen for Rodgers to have a solid outing in that game, because I don't think it's all going to be about Jalen Warren and the running game. Like, they're going to have to spread it out a little bit. It's also in Cincinnati, so you figure the Bengals defense will be inspired to play a little bit better against the run early, so that'll open up Rodgers for some things in that one. And then you look at Trevor Lawrence. Look, I don't know much about when you should play Trevor Lawrence. The matchups don't seem to be relevant. The toughest matchup he had was Kansas City, and he found a way with his legs and his arm. Like, it seems like in a matchup that's tougher, where he has to grind things out, he's almost better. And he's also very good, by the way, except for his rookie season when he plays in London for the Jaguars. Something lights up for him. And the Rams defense, look, it's good, but I don't think it's at that dominant level, where they're having some issues on the back end. I think Lawrence can give them some trouble with his mobility in this one. So I think he'll compile in a weird way. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. getting off the mat is key. They could use some other receivers as well. But I think he'll find a way to get the job done. Again, I do like the way it's trending with Puka Nacua out. I do like the Jaguars to win this game and be in control. And I think when this Etienne is running and he's helping Trevor Lawrence, that's a better way to score. And Bryce Young, simply, it's not home and away with him. He did have a good away game in Arizona, right? It's more the matchup is so fantastic against the Jets. I mean, just giving up quarterback points to everybody except for Bo Nix last week. But I feel confident with Bryce Young, especially with Josh Allen on bye, that he's a good plug and play this week.
Yeah, but every time we feel confident about Bryce Young, he does end up disappointing us. He's had a lot of nice matchups.
But McMillan wasn't getting in the end zone, so he finally scored twice. So I think you feel a little bit more confident with that now going forward. So the Panthers just need to be inconsistent. I mean, they're the model of inconsistency with 3-3 so far this season.
Absolutely. Now, really quickly, if you had to choose a quarterback between these three guys, Sam Darnold against the Texans, CJ Stroud against the Seahawks, or Jordan Love against the Cardinals, which one would you go with?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't love anybody in particular, especially the Stroud-Darnold matchup this week. I don't know. That could go either way. It could be really low scoring, really high scoring. I think Jordan Love has the safest floor this week. The Cardinals, I don't know how much resistance they're going to put up if Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't play. And Kyler Murray's iffy to play, right? So I'm a little bit worried that his volume is not going to be there, but I think he can probably get a couple touchdowns, one to Tucker Kraft, one to Romeo Dubs, and get you those numbers where the other, there's a little bit of volatility, especially with CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I think I am going to go with Stroud, though, especially if the Seahawks corners are still banged up. Keep an eye on their injuries, but both their starters missed the game last week. If that's the case, I do really like CJ Stroud. I mean, he's been putting it together. It wasn't just in week 5 against the Ravens where he had a monster game, 29 points, but week 4, I mean, he had 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 19 fantasy points. So the last 2 weeks against the Seahawks, Trevor Lawrence put up 19 points against them. Baker put up 27. So you can do work against the Seahawks defense in terms of fantasy points for the quarterback. So I lean CJ Stroud among this group. You're leading Jordan Love. That means we're not loving Sam Darnold against the Texans. The Texans have been really, really good against quarterbacks. Baker is the only quarterback that has scored more than 14 points against Houston this year. And it was 19.9, which is a pretty low game for Baker Mayfield. We are going to transition to our tight end rankings for this week. We'll get to that right after a quick break. The new NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel offers me numerous ways to play. I can build parlays, I can try player props, and even put in wagers for the live lines during games. Honestly, just any type of bet that you can put down on FanDuel just makes watching football even more exciting when you just got a little something riding on the action. If it's a boring game, just throw down a little wager, and it makes it so much more fun. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, let's start with the top of our tight end rankings here. And yes, if George Kittle comes back off IR and he's officially active in week 7, he is right in my top spot. I don't care. I have George Kittle ranked number 1 this week. You're playing it a little bit safer with him ranked at number 6 if he returns. But I mean, we've only seen him for 1 drive this season, and he scored 11 fantasy points in half PPR on that 1 drive with 4 receptions, 25 yards, and a touchdown. They have been utilizing the tight end position like crazy this year. The wide receiver core is still banged up. So I'm throwing George Kittle right at the top immediately, even if he plays limited snaps.
Yeah, I mean, overall, when you look at it, the Falcons have been a tough matchup for passing games. They've been actually much improved here with Raheem Morris at the helm. But again, you have to throw those out because they don't face 49ers style passing games very often. But 49ers are averaging the most passing yards of any team in the league right now. So that's always going to be good there. We'll see if Brock Purdy returns. That obviously would be a boost to the chemistry of George Kittle with his quarterback. So that could also help. So there's a few variables here, like Kittle's health, how healthy he is, Brock Purdy, how healthy he is. So those are the only things that are giving me pause. I mean, it's not like I have scrubs in front of him, and these guys are all ranked right behind who I have here above. I mean, Jake Ferguson, I mean, he's been just killing it against the Commanders. Trey McBride, actually, that's the one thing that could work well against the Packers. They struggle to cover the tight end. The Chargers actually good against the tight end, but Tyler Warren has just been so involved, and the Bucs really struggle. So you have Sam LaPorta, and then the Cardinals have not been great against the tight end. So Tucker Kraft comes in there, but it's the same usual suspect around there. You have Kraft a little bit lower, but Travis Kelce is a very interesting guy. I mean, you have Sam LaPorta as well, but Kelce seems back. But LaPorta, I think, is the guy that's interesting because now we're starting to develop more confidence. Back-to-back really nice games for him.
Yeah, it was a slow start to the season for LaPorta. We're starting to get worried, but now back-to-back weeks, like you said, he had 17.7 points in week 5, 14 points in week 6 and half PPR. He finally was catching touchdowns again, which he's been a monster at throughout his career, but he didn't have any in the first 4 weeks. Now he has a touchdown in back-to-back weeks, but also the receiving yards are there as well. And the Buccaneers can be passed on. I mean, AJ Barner in week 5 had 2 touchdowns and 53 yards against them. Dallas Goedert had 2 touchdowns against them in week 4, right? And Jake Tonjes last week for the 49ers put up 6 for 58. So this is a team that can be beat over the middle in the passing game. And Sam LaPorta, and we're expecting the Lions to be able to put up a lot of points, right, with Jared Goff. So Sam LaPorta has a good chance of coming down with at least 1 touchdown in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he is solid, and again, they're using him more and more. Like, unfortunately, I think someone's always going to be laid out in the wayside in the passing game between James Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and LaPorta. Williams and LaPorta got the touchdowns there against the Chiefs, and then Amon-Ra had to, like, really get volume to get any kind of decent production in that game. So, unfortunately, somebody might have to be left out in that case, but I don't think anyone can be left out in this Buccaneers line shootout. Now, Dallas Goedert, I mean, this is the weirdest thing. The Eagles have been struggling, but go figure. The receivers are hard to trust from week to week. Jalen Hurts has been good, but not spectacular. Saquon Barkley has been a massive letdown, but Dallas Goedert has exceeded all our expectations. He's already put up career high in touchdowns here this season. They're using him a little differently. They're using him in the red zone. They've used him a couple times on fake, like little runs in the red zone and a little tush-push action that gets Goedert open. So are you still trusting him? I know he's pretty touchdown dependent here, but the Eagles do get a matchup against Minnesota where he might have to be more involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to trust anybody in this Eagles offense right now, but Goedert just keeps scoring touchdowns. And last week, it wasn't just about the touchdown. He had 11 targets, 9 receptions, and 110 yards. So it's good to see him actually utilized too, because prior to that, I mean, it was like no receiving yards. It was only touchdowns. He's always going to be risky. Anyone in this offense, for this Eagles offense, you never know which route they're going to take in that given game. Are they going to lean on Barkley? Are they going to finally get A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith involved? Or is it going to be a Goedert game? So it's always risky. That's why he's at 7 for me, 8 for you, because we can't feel confident to put him in the top 5. But he is, I mean, he's just as solid of a start as anyone else. I mean, most tight ends outside of Trey McBride and maybe, Jake Ferguson and Tyler Warren right now are risky. So I think he's a solid play. I actually have him ahead of Tucker Kraft, who I have at number 8. A couple guys I want to hit on here in case you're in a pickle. Who do you think is the better flyer this week? Is it Cade Otton against the Lions, or is it rookie Harold Fannin Jr. against the Dolphins?
Yeah, I mean, I actually have both of these guys in my top 12 this week based on things that are going on. I mean, you lose Dalton Kincaid, who was hurt and didn't play last week anyway, and then Mark Andrews, if you're really still counting on him, he's got a bye as well. So things change a little bit with the way things are playing out at tight end. But I have actually Mason Taylor 12. That's a good matchup against the Panthers. But talking about Otton, I think he might be the safest floor play with all these wide receiver injuries. Everyone's like, who should I start? I think if you're going to go a wide receiver route, it might be Sterling Shepard because he can have a versatile role that is going to see the targets where some of the younger guys are more big play dependent. But Cade Otton can be solid in the middle of the field. We saw what Travis Kelce did, speaking of Kelce being in the top 7. He can build on that, right? Kelce definitely had one of his better overall games against the Lions last week, so that's good news for Cade Otton. And with Harold Fannin Jr., it does not look like David Njoku with any injuries going to be available. So now he has that, quote, tight end room to himself. And this matchup is great. Like, this is the one where we can feel great about all the Browns assets at home, like Quinshon Judkins and Harold Fannin, and maybe Michelle's guy, Isaiah Bond, will get going in this one. So the rookies, Dylan Gabriel, it's just a lot of riding on the rookies. But, man, I think Fannin has scored. I mean, he scored a touchdown with Gabriel in there. So I feel like these are some nice little sleepers with some other guys having tougher matchups down the board.
Yeah, Fannin with Gabriel so far. He had that touchdown in week 5, and then week 6, 10 targets, 81 receiving yards, and 7 receptions. And the Dolphins are allowing the 6th most fantasy points per game to tight end. So if you're looking for a guy to plug in and play, I do think Harold Fannin Jr. is a really good option. I've Cade Otton a little bit lower at 14 with Harold Fannin at 10. I have Darren Waller at 9, even in a tougher matchup against Cleveland. He just keeps coming down with touchdowns. One last guy I want to discuss here is Evan Ingram, because it's a revenge game for him against the Giants. He was more involved in the offense this past week with the Broncos. I'm at tight end 12. I do think he's a playable guy. You have him much lower at tight end 19, but it did feel like that they're starting to lean on Evan Ingram a little bit more in this passing game. Bo Nix is going to him as his second option. It hasn't been great for fantasy so far, but I could see it a revenge game this week.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is other guys are getting involved in scoring touchdowns. I mean, that's a problem where he's not just the guy and it's committee, and it's so random after Cortland Sutton. We've seen Marvin Mims, we've seen Troy Franklin, we've seen the tight ends, we've seen a little bit of Dobbins or RJ Harvey out of the backfield. I don't know who the second target on the Broncos team is from week to week. The Giants are pretty good against the tight end. I've also dropped Waller because of that fact. They're in a tough matchup against the Browns this week. So, again, the numbers against the tight end are going to show up a little bit more and more as we go forward. I just cannot feel great about Ingram if he's splitting time and the matchup is not that good. So, again, there's just so many options I'd rather play, including those three I mentioned, Otton, Fannin, and Taylor.
Yeah, Mason Taylor, nice matchup against the Panthers. No Garrett Wilson, probably, so more targets going his way. You have Zach Ertz at number 9 against the Cowboys. I like that. I have him at 13, but I think he's a fine play. And then Michael Mayer is a sneaky play this week with Brock Bowers expected to miss more time against the Chiefs. I have him at 11. You're a little bit lower at 18. And then guys like TJ Hawkinson and Hunter Henry were kind of burying this week.
Yeah.
And Juwan Johnson, who was getting targets earlier in the season, those have gone away, right? And Taysom Hill is back. So if you have Juwan Johnson, it's time to stop playing him. But that will be it for today's episode. I want to thank you all again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen of the day. For your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler the Madman Rowland gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We will be back with our next episode talking about our running back rankings for week 6. Don't miss that. Bye, y'all.